Hello, I hope you've had lots of fun doing your making today, making things about David. So, we met David once before at Messy Church last November, and last time we met him, he was fighting the giant Goliath. But this morning, we've been making things to do with some of the other adventures that he had. Perhaps you made a banner with a sheep on it. That's to remind us that although David became a king, he started off being a very ordinary boy. In fact, he was the youngest son, so he got all the rubbish jobs, like having to live outside and look after the smelly sheep. He was so unimportant that when Samuel visited his dad and said that God had sent him to find the next king from among his sons, David's dad didn't even bother to send for him. But Samuel looked at all David's big brothers in turn, and God said no to each of them. And then David was sent for, and God said, yes, this is the one. I don't look at the outside, how big or strong someone is, but at the heart, where I can see what someone is truly like. So God chose the ordinary kid who loved him. Or maybe you made an arrow. When David was a young man, he worked for King Saul. David played the harp and sang, and when Saul was feeling miserable, he would ask David to sing for him to make him feel better. David became best friends with Saul's son Jonathan. But suddenly King Saul turned against David, and David had to run away. Jonathan and David agreed a code system using arrows, so Jonathan could send a secret message to warn David to stay away. David had to hide in the mountains. King Saul and his men chased him, but couldn't catch him. David wrote some beautiful poems and songs whilst he was hiding. And some of these are in the Bible, and we still use them today. Eventually, King Saul died, and David became king. Perhaps you made an Ark of the Covenant. This was a wooden box which held the stone tablets with the 10 Commandments written on them. It was very important and very, very holy. Perhaps you've heard of the film Raiders of the Lost Ark, or even seen parts of it. That film was supposed to be about the Ark of the Covenant. It was very special. No one was allowed to touch the Ark, and it had special poles for carrying it when it needed to be moved. When David became king, one of the first things he did was to bring the Ark to his capital city, Jerusalem, so that he could praise God. He was so happy when the Ark arrived that he began to dance and sing really wildly. He made a right show. His wife was really embarrassed, but David didn't care. He just wanted to show God how much he loved him. David had lots of other adventures. He didn't always get things right, and sometimes he got things horribly wrong. But he always said sorry to God. And some of these songs are in the Bible too. So David was an ordinary kid, just like you. But he loved God. And God chose him for a special job, to be the second greatest king of God's people ever. And many hundreds of years later, David's lots and lots of greats grandson was born in a little town called Bethlehem. And he grew up to be the greatest king of God's people. And his name was, I wonder if you can guess. His name was Jesus.